Good afternoon, children. Today we are going to learn the lesson Lost Spring, the second chapter of the textbook Flamingo. And can see a subtitle Stories of Stolen Childhood. The following is an excerpt from her book titled Lost Spring. Okay, this is a extract from a book titled Lost Spring by Anis Dunk. Stories of Stolen Childhood. Here, she analyzes the grinding poverty and traditions which condemn these children to a life of exploitation. Okay, children, so the main concern of the chapter is clear for you. It's all about the child labor and the exploitations which the children have to face. And what does Lost Spring indicate? See, spring always refers to the most beautiful season. And as far as a person is concerned, the most beautiful time of his life is his childhood. Okay, and you can see that this is a story about the stolen childhood. Okay, the children who are induced in child labor, their childhood have been stolen from them. Now let's move on the chapter and learn further about it. Sometimes I find a rupee in the garbage. Why do you do this? I asked Sahab, whom I encounter every morning scrounging for gold in the garbage dumps of my neighborhood. Sahab left his home long ago, set amidst the green fields of Dhaka. His home is not even a distant memory. There were many storms that swept away their fields and homes. His mother tells him that's why they left looking for gold in the big city where he now lives. I have nothing else to do, he mutters, looking away. Go to school, I say glibly, realizing immediately how hollow that voice must sound. So in the beginning, we can see the word I says that Anis Deng had a very biographical experience, okay? It was a real life experience that she had, and she is just expressing it in mere words, okay? So what happened? She is enquiring some children, okay? They are typically rag pickers who used to pick all the waste things and all. And the name of the boy is Sahab, okay? And she is asking Sahab, why are you always looking for gold in the garbage heaps of her neighborhood? And he replies that he sometimes find a rupee in the garbage. Okay, sometimes occasionally they may find some rupees and some notes and all in the garbage. Actually, we are getting a reference to the story, the past life of Sahib. Actually, he was born and brought up in the green fields of Dhaka, a place in Bangladesh. And what happened? The storms had swept away his fields and home, and he was forced to shift to big city, looking for better opportunities to survive. And he's having his mother only with him. And Sahab says that he has nothing else to do other than checking the garbages. And now the author is giving a suggestion, go to school. Even though she says that, suddenly she realizes that it was a very false, meaningless advice. Why it is a false, meaningless advice? Let's find it out. There is no school in my neighborhood. When they build one, I will go. If I start a school, will you come? I ask, half joking. Yes, he says, smiling broadly. A few days later, I see him running up to me. Is your school ready? It takes longer to build a school, I say, impressed at having made a promise that was not meant. But promises like mine abound in every corner of his bleak world. After months of knowing him, I ask him his name. Sahabi Alam, he announces. He does not know what it means. If he knew its meaning, Lord of the universe, he would have a hard time believing it. Unaware of what his name represents, he roams the streets with his friends, an army of barefoot boys who appear like the morning birds and disappear at noon. Over the months, I have come to recognize each of them. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another, who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. Now, what happened the second day? Okay, so, as the author is asking him, go to school, he says that there is no school in his neighborhood. Okay, that means he's living in a very underdeveloped part of the city. Okay, and the author is asking him in a very funny way, if I start a school, will you come? And he says that yes. Okay, and it was not a very meaningful question. But after a few days, when the boy saw the author, he came rushing towards her and asked her, is your school ready to join? And the author felt so bad about that question. And she said that it takes a longer time to build a school, okay? And she was feeling so bad about making a promise that will not be fulfilled, okay? And after a lot of months, she came to know more about him. And what was his name? His name was Sahabi Alam, okay? And what is the meaning of that name? Lord of the Universe. And she says that it was very ironic of his name. Even though his name is Lord of the Universe, he is not possessing anything in this world. What is his job? He is just a rag picker. And every morning till afternoon, she used to see a group of boys who used to pick the rags from the garbages. And one day she asked them, why are you not wearing the chappals? And they are having many reasons. One boy said that his mother is not taking it from the shelf and giving him to wear. And the other boy said that even if the mother gave him, he will throw them off. And one boy was wearing shoes that was not matching. It was not the same pair, different pairs of shoes he was wearing. And the third boy expressed his wish to have shoes. He hasn't owned even a pair of shoes in his entire lifetime. And the author remarks that traveling across the country, she had seen a lot of children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. And she remarks it is not the lack of money, but they say it's a tradition to stay barefoot. I wonder if this is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard where lived the new priest, there were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived, panting, and threw his school bag on a folding bed. Look at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess had granted his prayer. Young boys like the son of the priest now wore shoes, but many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag pickers leads me to Simapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh in 1971. Sahab's family is among them. Simapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. In structures of mud with roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage, or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. They have lived here for more than 30 years, without an identity, without permits, but with ration cards that get their names on voters' lists and enable them to buy grain. Food is more important for survival than an identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grain. Say a group of women in tattered saris when I asked them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become rancid homes. Children grow up in them, becoming partners in survival. And survival in Simapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired the proportions of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. Now, the author says that she wonders all these excuses were just an eternal state of poverty. And she remembers a story of a man from Udupi once told her. Okay, actually, a young boy. He was the son of a priest and he used to pray to the goddess for a pair of shoes. Now, 30 years after what happened, the town and the temple got destructed, and in the backyard of that temple used to live the then priest. And actually, the son of that priest was having the uniform, socks, shoes, and all those things. It took 30 years for that prayer, that wish to get fulfilled. Now she is coming to Sahab's details. Actually, he is living in Simapuri, and actually, Simapuri is an outer edge of Delhi, but truly it is not at all developed like Delhi. That's what she says. It is miles away from it, metaphorically. Actually, the people, those who live there, are refugees from Bangladesh who are not having any permission, and they came and settled there from at 1971, and there is no proper permit and all, but they possess a ration card which will enable them to buy food, and without proper sewage, drainage or running water, 10,000 rag pickers are living there. They are living there for 30 years. Okay, and that's a very important remark. Food is more important for survival than an identity. Okay, and you can underline that. It's a very good statement when you can quote it when you write the answers from this chapter. The condition of them, they are very poor, and for survival in Simapuri they do rag picking, and garbage for them is gold, and for daily bread and all, they are not having a proper roof over them, and if they get daily bread, it is more for a child. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note, Sahab says, his eyes lighting up. When you can find a silver coin in a heap of garbage, you don't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it means to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder, for the elders, it is a means of survival. One winter morning, I see Sahab standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums, content to watch it standing behind the fence. I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. Sahab too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in the manner of an explanation. The fact that they are discarded shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of a hole in one of them does not bother him. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoes with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching so intently is out of his reach. This morning, Sahab is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry so lightly over his shoulder. The bag was his. The canister belongs to the man who owns the tea shop. Sahab is no longer his own master. So we have a very good interesting account of the boy Sahab. He says to the author that he often find a rupee, even a 10 rupee note and all. And when you find these rupees, you have hope, and it will not stop from looking further to the garbage and all. For them, it's a surprise thing, this garbage, where they can find the new things. And for the elders, it's a means of survival. Now, one winter morning, she saw Sahab standing in the fence gate of a neighborhood club, and the boys were playing tennis. Okay, the men were dressed in white playing tennis, and Sahab liked the game. Actually, he was also wearing tennis shoes, and it was given to him by a rich lady whose son refused to wear it as there was a hole in it, but he is happy with it. Okay, even though he was lucky enough to wear a tennis shoe, playing the game was a matter of distant. And he says that when these people will finish the game, the gatekeeper allows him to go inside, and he will allow him to play in the swing and all. So this morning what happened is that Sahab was on his way to the milk booth. Actually, he was having a steel box with him, and he said he was working in a tea stall where he is paid 800 rupees. and all his food and all those things is taken care of. And she asked him whether he liked the job, and he was not giving answer for that because the steel box he was carrying was much heavier than the plastic rag picking bag and all. And now Sahab was no longer his own master because the steel box belongs to the owner of the tea stall. And that was an account of the boy Sahab. And in next, we have a split up in this chapter. We are going to find out the experiences of a boy by the name Mukesh.